MICAH Beats activated.
Welcome to Just Therapy, where we talk about life with a comedy twist. With your hosts, comedian Sean Boyd, Antonio Ferguson, and Miss KT. We talk about a whole bunch of shit from politics to people actually taking shits. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the therapy session. Man, this be dope. Make a motherfucker want to rap. I can't rap, man. Hold on, here we go. I can't rap. I really can't. But come sit down on the couch with us. Man, I can't rap. Come to the couch. Enjoy the show. Let's go.
Just another day on the couch, talking about all the problems of today. Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Just Therapy. I am your host, comedian Sean Boyd. And as always, I got my co-host with the mostest in the building, Miss BBC. What's going on, sis?
Greetings. How are you today?
Being blessed, loving life. The computer want to act up, so I'm on the phone. But yes, it's another beautiful Monday evening, y'all. Hopefully you had a good work day, and we here to end your work Monday off with some couch therapy. And as y'all hear her in the background already bugging me, she is back.
I my girl back home. Hey, couchers. Hey, baby.
I know you're the co-host. She literally was like, Daddy. You called me the co-host too. I know.
Right. Together.
She always be on it, but she is back. It's another beautiful Monday evening, y'all. So listen, happy belated Resurrection Sunday. Hope you enjoyed family. Hope you got fed good, ate some good food, and got some good word if you do that. And also big shout out to our last week's guest, Miss Janta Marie was in the building.
Yes,
definitely a great episode, great story. Make sure you check her out, especially check out her YouTube channel. So that was definitely a must see and a must watch, must listen to, all that good stuff. So you can watch it on here, of course, on Just Therapy the podcast on Facebook or YouTube, or just listen on Spotify. Either way, pick your poison, but it was definitely a great episode. Yes, it was. And we have another excellent episode for you this evening. Listen, I am excited because we got a awesome guest with an awesome story, and you'll get to hear all about it. So, listen, man, she is an author, a judge, retired judge, and motivational speaker. Listen, let's get right into it, man. Let's make some noise for Miss Mary Beth O'Connor, y'all.
Hey.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Mary Beth. Listen, you have a slew of accolades, and I really want to just read it to everybody, but it's a lot. But we'll get into it. We'll jump right into it. How are you doing, first off?
Doing great. Looking forward to our conversation.
Nice. So let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. So your background is extensive, to say the least, after reading that, the long bio, the short bio, all that stuff. I really don't know where to start at, truthfully. It's so much I want to talk to you about, but I really don't even know where to start. Let's start on let's start with the book. Let's start with the memoir. Junkie to I don't want to say it wrong. Can you say it for me?
So yeah, the title is From Junkie to Judge: One Woman's Triumph Over Trauma and Addiction.
All right. Well, let's start with the book. How did you even come about writing the memoir?
So when I was appointed a judge, and that was when I had 20 years sober. So we'll go into my history, I'm sure, but I didn't go to law school until I was 39 when I had 6 years sober. And then I worked, at a big law firm, and then I did class action work for the federal government. And I always do emphasize the dates. At 20 years sober, I was appointed a federal administrative law judge. And so it really was a time of reflection, like, how did I go from shooting meth? I mean, I started shooting meth at 17. I did not get sober until I was 32. And now I'm a judge. How the heck did I do that? And so I started thinking about whether the story could be of any use. Could I use my story for any good purpose?
Right.
I actually hadn't read a lot of memoir. And so first I thought maybe I ought to read some. And when I did, I didn't see the book that I wanted to write. And so a lot of recovery memoirs sort of leap into the crazy stories of the addiction, but they don't show where it came from.
Okay.
And so in my book, I really show my family history, my trauma history, a lot of my experiences that made picking up drugs at a very early age and using at that level, that it's, made sense in that context to me at the time. Mm-hmm. But then the other thing is, a lot of memoirs at the end, it's like, I went to a couple meetings and everything was great. And it's like, well, that's not how recovery works. Okay. So 30% of my book is actually my first 3 years of recovery. And it's recovery from the substance use, but also recovery from my trauma, from my PTSD, from my anxiety. I wanted to show a more realistic example of how recovery really operates. And so the genesis of the book.
Nice. Okay. So let's start back with the story. So, because you had to be able to kind of heal yourself to even recover for yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe in a self-empowered recovery, which means that I'm the decision maker about what strategies and techniques and approaches I'm going to use. But that doesn't mean I did it on my own. I mean, I used peer support. I read a lot of books about recovery. I went to a variety of different program meetings, and I was just looking for ideas and techniques, anything that sounded useful. I was grabbing onto it. But yeah, in the end, I do think it really is, for me, it was helpful to sort of take ownership of my recovery plan. It sort of helped me build up the skills I needed to handle the rest of life, so it was useful. I did what we would call a personal plan. I sort of synthesized a lot of different ideas. And by the way, I did just have 30 years of sobriety in January. So I think it worked.
Nice. I love it.
Thanks.
I love it. So let me ask you this, if you don't mind me asking. So what got you into drugs per se? Like what started the addiction off?
And how old were you?
Yes. And so I, like many, that I see the short version is child abuse, like the childhood addiction, right? And that is actually a common story. Yes. And so for me, I grew up in a house where my mother was not really connected to me. She wasn't interested in me, and she was violent at times. But when I was 9, she married my stepfather, and he was very violent with her. He was physically and sexually violent with me. And it was just like that kind of high stress environment where you're, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. And so my first drug was when I was 12, and it was alcohol. It was Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill wine, which I know a lot of people know. Boone's Farm.
I remember those.
And so what I noticed about it was how much better I felt. I mean, I felt like the tension was released from my body. I felt like I could sort of relax and have a good time. And I noticed that, this is a positive. I need more of this.
Right.
And so I pursued alcohol right away, and I added in weed and pills and acid. And when I was 16, I found what became my drug of choice, which was methamphetamine. And I was shooting up within 6 months. I was in full bore addiction in high school. So it was escalated at a really fast pace.
Okay.
I've never heard that before. I mean, that being that young, that's a definite fast pace. Most people start off with, tapping, tasting, this and that and the other. But at that age, that had to be very dramatic and very devastating for you when you look back at it at that time.
Right. I mean, it soon had a lot of negative consequences, but in the beginning, it seems to work. It's like that's how it tricks you.
Right.
the beginning, it seems to help, but I did escalate really fast. I mean, even in my druggie community, which of course became my group of friends, even in that group, people
Right.
were worried about me, you know, like Mary Beth, you know, you need to slow down. Mary Beth, you need to go home and sleep. Like,
Mhm.
so you're right. I was at sort of the higher end of escalation at a very young age, and it went on for a long time. I mean, I went to college, and I grew up in Central Jersey, and I came to California for college. I graduated from Berkeley, and I did better for a couple of years. But then I had this kidnapping for 6 hours, 3 men, rapes by them all, moved in with a violent boyfriend. And I just I lost the little bit of grip I had. And I started using meth again in January of my senior year of college. And I didn't get sober until I was 32. So it started early, it escalated fast, and it lasted quite a long time.
Oh, wow.
So let me ask you this. What happened to make you want to start your sobriety journey?
So for me, it was really a combination of things. My phrase is I had worked my way down the corporate ladder. You know, like I could not hold a job because I was using meth. But also at 32, I was having physical problems. I was really emotionally debilitated. I felt so trapped and exhausted, and my partner was ready to throw me out. So it was sort of everything in combination that made me say, well, you know, what if I go to rehab? You know, and so that was how it started. I wasn't sure about it. I mean, I think we don't want to create some artificial bar that people have to be like 100% sobriety committed before they start, or 100% confident, because that's not normal. But
Right.
I thought, well, maybe I better go in and see what it's about. You know, let's see if I can try to at least improve.
Okay, let me ask you this. So did you overcome on your first try to go to rehab? Because I've heard people say they had to go like 17 times. How many times did it take for you?
So I went to rehab once, although I was in a longer term program. I was in for 5 months, which was, I think, part of the reason that I went in once. But I will also say that I did use a meth 3 times in my first 5 months. And so I didn't have perfect abstinence from day one, which is common. I mean, some people have, you know, perfection, yay for them, but most people don't. And 3 times in 5 months was a vast improvement, you know, and then it was twice when I was in and once when I got home. And then that was the last time. And then now I have the 30 years. So yeah, 1 time in rehab, but not perfect abstinence.
Okay. Right. And after that, what was your next journey? So you went to rehab, you became, you know, clean, but not healed, of course. And then you were like, I'm going back to college, or what was the next move from there?
So the other big area that I really had to focus on when I got home from rehab was my trauma history. I knew that I needed help with that if I was going to sort of have a good chance of staying sober, but also if I was going to be happy, right? And so when I got home, I found a therapist who had expertise in trauma, and she also had some substance use disorder expertise, and I worked with her. I did do a lot of peer support meetings in the beginning, different, you know, a little bit of Narcotics Anonymous, but Women for Sobriety, the parent of Life Brings Secular Recovery, the parent of SMART. I went to a bunch of meetings, and my husband and I went to couples counseling as well. So I was sort of tackling all of those things at the same time. And in fact, when I got home, I made a list of everything I had to work on, and it was like really long. It was really long, and it turns out it was not comprehensive.
Wow. Okay.
But what I decided was like, well, there's no way to work on all these things, right? So I picked 5. I said, what I'm going to work on is my sobriety, my getting my mental health stabilized, my relationship with my husband, trying to get back to work, and like, you know, not get fired again. That was my first professional goal. Let's not get fired again.
Right.
And try to get my debt under, you know, start to reduce my debt. That was my list, and everything else I just put it aside. You know, they were major, but it was really a matter of recognizing I couldn't start to tackle the whole list. It was impossible. I had to pick. And so that's what I did. I picked the 5 priorities, and then I sort of set a goal and build a plan, and then try to work on it, you know, step by step by step.
Okay. So what made you keep going with the sobriety? What made you not turn back? Because I know some people will start and then, you know, and get a year or get a 2 or get 3, and then something happens in their life when they just say, you know, forget it, I'm going back. What made you keep going?
I mean, I would say a couple things. One is that part of sobriety, is rewiring your brain so that it gets easier over time to stay sober, right? We talk a lot about how addiction rewires your brain, but actually sobriety rewires your brain too in a positive way. And so over time, it does get easier. Like once somebody hits 5 years of continuous sobriety, they have an 85% chance that they'll never relapse again. And so the odds are pretty high. But you're right, especially in the first 2 or 3 years, you really have to give it a lot of focused attention. But I think for many of us, we need to deal with what was underneath the addiction if we're going to have the best chance of success.
Indeed.
So if I wouldn't have dealt with my trauma, I really think my odds of being able to stay sober would have, I don't even think there were odds. I wouldn't have been able to stay sober.
Right.
And so part of it is trying to figure out what was the sort of the impetus and where else do I need to do work? Where else do I need to heal to give yourself the best chance? And I will also say that people who go back out, like let's say somebody has a slip after a year. Well, sometimes it's short, right? People have a short slip, and sometimes people sort of really go into a longer term version. And so part of what we encourage people today is that if they have some kind of a slip, let's keep it short. Like, let's, try to get back on track. Don't beat yourself up. And then let's do it. Let's talk about it. Like, what exactly happened? What's your plan to build a stronger foundation so that that doesn't happen again? So in other words, instead of shaming somebody or, oh, you're back to zero or, those kind of things, it should be about what can you do to strengthen yourself and to strengthen your plan so that you can have success going forward?
Okay.
I like
So
that.
what made you go back to school? I know you said you graduated from Berkeley, right? What made you go back to actually, be in law and then in turn become a judge?
So my first job was like, let's not get fired. So when I got home, my first job was a part-time, temporary, low-level administrative job, because honestly, that's all I could handle. Like for me to get up every day and go to work on time and stay all the hours, okay, and do a good job and do it the next day and the next. I was 32 and I had never done it in my entire life. Like I needed to sort of get that practice, that habit.
Right.
And then my next job was a full-time permanent mid-level administrative job. And then I got a supervisory job at a larger company and got a promotion. And then at 6.5 years sober, I went to law school. I went to Berkeley Law. And law school had been my original goal in college. And I actually had gone to Berkeley Law right after I graduated college. But remember, I started using meth again in January of my senior year. By the time I got to Berkeley Law, I couldn't do it because I couldn't get there and I couldn't so I gave back a top 10 law school because of my addiction. Like I withdrew, I just said, I gave it back. And that was an agonizing pain for me. And so it was sort of in the back of my mind when I got sober, would I ever dare try again,
Right.
And by 6.5 years, I was 39. And I thought I either am going to try again, or I'm just admit I'm never going to do it, And so it just seemed to be the right time that I was ready to handle it. And so I did. I applied, and I eventually ended up graduating from Berkeley Law. So that's sort of how it all played out. Yeah,
Nice. That's amazing.
And very, very amazing. Very amazing. So let's say I know you're a board of directors on a couple of different places. How did that come about? Did that come about after you retired from being a judge, or when you were a judge? And tell us a little bit about both of those programs.
Yeah. So I actually joined the board of both of them when I was still a judge. So I'm on the board for Lifespring Secular Recovery. And when I got sober, their parent organization was SOS, and I used SOS as one of my groups. So Lifespring, our philosophy, it's a peer support group, like 12 steps is peer support. But our philosophy, we call it the 3S philosophy. And so it's sobriety. Although for us, if someone's on medication, like some people take medication for opiate use disorder or alcohol or mental health or whatever. If somebody's on medication, and I always emphasize taken as prescribed, okay,
right,
that counts as sober for us. And then our second S is secularity, which means out of respect for all, faith and none, no religion in meetings. But a significant percentage of our members have personal, spiritual, or religious beliefs, and we don't have any opinion about that at all. the third S is self-empowerment. And so we believe that each person's plan is going to be different because you and I are different, and where we are in our life and what our priorities are different. So we focus on self-empowerment and an individual plan, but the group is there to offer support and ideas and suggestions. And so that's really what LifeBring is all about. And then I'm also on the board for She Recovers Foundation, and She Recovers isn't just for recovery from substance use. It's also mental health recovery, trauma recovery, behavioral disorders like eating or gambling, grief, workaholism, sort of everything together. Because most of the women who have a substance use disorder also have one or more of those other things to work on. And so when She Recovers, you can talk about it all together. You don't have to sort of parcel out. Over here, I talk about my addiction. Over here, I talk about my eating. You can say you do it all together because there's an overlap in the recoveries. There's an interplay of the recoveries, and so those are the two organizations I'm on the board for. Nice.
I love it. So let me ask you, how hard was it to actually write that memoir? Like reliving some of that stuff, like you said that you really got detailed and talked about your recovery and the road to recovery and what you went through and all that. How hard was that to go through that and actually write all that down?
Yeah, so I mean, by the time I started, I had done a lot of therapy, but there had been sort of a gap. I hadn't been in therapy probably for 7 or 8 years by the time I started working on the book. And so it was a time to sort of revisit events from a new perspective in a way that I hadn't done in a while. And there were a couple things. One is, yeah, you're right, like that rape. And you have to really get into the details so that the reader understands the impact, right? Exactly what happened. But at the same time, looking at it again actually made me sort of almost more proud of myself, like that I survived everything. And that even though picking up substances turns out to have been a very, very poor decision, I really did do some things to try to survive the trauma and the stress. I did things, like I was the oldest child, trying to protect my siblings, to the best of my ability, and trying to reduce the violence. And so while it was difficult at times, it also gave me a newfound sort of respect for my younger self, a little bit more like, what, she really did try hard. They were just very difficult circumstances.
Right. Absolutely. So let's go ahead. My bad. Go ahead, Miss BBC.
How many years were you a judge?
I was a judge for 5.5 years, and then I always emphasize early retirement. And my husband says I don't know what it means because I'm so busy. But in addition to the board work in the book, I write opinion pieces. Like I've had pieces in the Wall Street Journal and the LA Times and other publications, and those are all on my website if anyone wants to read them, which is junkietojudge.com. And I also do a lot of speaking, like I speak at conferences and I do workshops about substance use. And I train judges and lawyers. They have continuing legal education requirements, and I train them about substance use and recovery in some areas where they could do better. So
that's amazing.
So it's a busy life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people and people that are in power sometimes they don't understand what people go through, and to them all they see is this junkie. They don't know about traumas and everything like that to lead up to it. And it's a lot of people, to me, that are put in jail or imprisoned or whatever due to circumstances beyond their control. And I think that people really don't realize how serious addiction is and the depth of it, or people don't even take the time because the judgmental awareness of it all, instead of diving deeper into it to find out what's going on. And because it moves so fast with law and the judicial system, a lot of people are looked over and not given help because correction centers really are not correction centers. I think what you do is much better by taking people in and helping them and giving them different levels of workshops and training and meetings and everything to be able to, and especially with therapy, because that's very important. I really appreciate that.
Right.
Well, and the other thing I'll say is, I mean, to be personally, I actually don't believe in criminalizing personal use of drugs at all. I mean, I think, for example, the federal government categorizes addiction as a disease, and yet we criminalize it. There are 500,000 people in jail or incarcerated today just for possession, not for anything, just for possession, right? So that's a problem. The other thing is that when we incarcerate people for basically for having a drug problem, or we could treat 3 or 4 people for the same amount of money that we incarcerate one. So our dollars would be better spent on that. And then one of the other major reasons I support decriminalization is because of the racial disparity in the way our drug laws are enforced. I wrote an op-ed for the LA Times about that. The reality is that white people and people of color use drugs at the same rate, but the arrest rate is very different. The incarceration rate is very different. The sentencing of the sentences is much higher. And so the fact that we can't even enforce the laws fairly, to me, completely undermines their legitimacy as well. So you're right. I think that the better options, let's use those tax dollars for treatment and get people in, because we don't have enough treatment today. We don't have treatment on demand. There aren't beds for everyone, especially depending on where you live, or if you don't have insurance, it can be really challenging to get help.
It's true. A lot of the treatment centers that we do have, especially here in Cleveland, they're definitely not 5 months. Like I dropped one of my passengers off at a treatment center, and she was devastated because they were only giving her 9 days. And another treatment center in Columbus, I think it's like 30 days, but she wanted to stay longer. And I was like, well, look and see what you can do. Talk to a counselor or something, because if someone is asking, please keep me longer, I need more help, they should be able to get that help. And that's not happening.
That's You're right. I mean, one of the things when I train, I talk about it, most people, even if they get inpatient treatment, it's 28 or 30 days. It is not 28 or 30 days because the data shows that's the optimal length of treatment. It's 28 or 30 days because if you're lucky enough to have insurance, that's what they pay for.
Wow. Yeah.
The reality is that it also depends. What you need depends on where you are, how bad your substance use disorder is. So the way we talk about substance use disorder today is just like all mental health conditions. You can have a mild version, a moderate version, or a severe version. Just like you can have mild anxiety, moderate anxiety, or severe anxiety, right? And I would have been on the severe end. So what treatment is appropriate depends on where you fall on that spectrum and other things like, do you also have another mental health condition? A lot of people with a substance use disorder also have another mental health condition too. And so they need treat both. And so all those things, if we were doing it right, would be factored into what treatment you get and how long you get that treatment. But today, people can't get a bed, or they're in and out faster than would be optimal. And it's a waste of resources. You'd be better off, giving them a length of time that's going to be appropriate. You're absolutely right. It should be an individualized assessment. What does this individual need? How much time? What kind of treatment? Does she need, therapy for her depression at the same time, or whatever it is, if we're going to give people the best odds of success? And then the other side is then we judge people when they don't succeed, when we didn't really offer them good help in the first place.
No.
Right.
Exactly that. I just, one of the counselors that I spoke with when I dropped the passenger off was saying that they basically did something to get her in, because usually if you're not shooting up, or I think it's like meth or heroin, if you're not an addict of those sources, usually even with insurance, you can't get in. Like if it's crack or marijuana or alcohol, they look at that as like, okay, that's a 1, versus someone who is doing heroin or meth, that's a 10, which, addiction is an addiction.
Right.
Go ahead.
And what that tells us, if we don't have enough treatment available, right? If we had enough treatment for everybody, they wouldn't be making those kind of choices. The reason is we don't have a robust treatment system. We act like we do. We judge people as if we do, but we don't.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what made you retire from being a judge?
I was having some medical issues, and it was just time for for me. I can do many things, but full-time work was really sort of getting beyond me. And so I decided to retire. And you know, luckily I was able to do that. And but at the same time, I feel like this is my time to be of service, right? Because I don't have to worry about professional ramifications anymore. So I can talk about everything openly and honestly. And I will say, you know, I mean, I'm proud that of the accomplishment of having been a judge, but it's not like it was the most important part of my recovery, right? It was my job. But now I can use that title to get people to listen to me a little better, you know. They can hear me a little harder. So I really use that judge title just to open up ears.
No, it's really good though, because even with your judge title, like you said, you're training judges and lawyers to deal, you know, or how to support addiction habit or addiction clients or, you know, whatever. So, and that's very important to just, even if you did a day, you're still labeled as a judge, but your true calling and your true blessing was that you have a story to tell and you know what they're going through and you have an understanding to be able to help them. It's really hard to listen to somebody that has not been through it. It's really hard to get somebody to understand when they haven't been through it. I find that I have a lot of addicts in my family. You become defensive all the time. You think everybody is judging you because you're judging yourself. You know, you're overly aggressive or overly emotional. And when you have someone that truly understands what you're going through and can deal with you, because you probably like, okay, I know this. I know I know this attitude, and you probably can deal with it. And also having that judge behind you is like, calm down, you know, let's talk. So I can see that because you have a very nurturing energy. So I can see that will help them. If it was me, I would be proud to be in a part of your programs because I would believe that you know what I'm going through.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have any funny judge stories from, I mean, of course you don't say names, but like, do you have any, like any funny stories from the courtroom that you can tell us?
Well, I will tell you one time there was a lawyer. So I was reading he had a file, like an explanation of the case, right? And in it, he said that he actually hadn't read the whole file. In what in what he wrote, he's telling me. So I go into the hearing room and I say, you know, let's say Lawyer Smith, you know, have you now had an opportunity to read the whole file? And he said, oh no, it's okay, Judge. I have the gist of it. I've been doing this for 20 years. I have the gist of it. And I said, well, do you want to postpone it so that you can read the file? No, I've got it. I got the gist. So I looked at his client and I said, you know, Mr. Jones, would you like a postponement? Maybe to look for another lawyer?
Nice.
So really?
You like, cause he ain't gonna do you no justice, and I want him to be able to service you the right way and not get you into some trouble you shouldn't be in. Yeah.
I want you to have a fair chance. Maybe this is not your guy, you know?
Right. This is definitely not your guy. He said, I got
Did they say yes though? Did they say yes?
No, the client wanted to go forward. So, you know, so I let him. But I also made sure that I filled in the gaps. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That everything got in the record that needed to get in the record. You know what I mean? Like I took ownership to make sure that everything that could be helpful to that guy was in there.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. And that's how it really goes. A lot of lawyers move like that. And a lot of judges don't move like you did. They just like, oh, okay. You know, so, oh my goodness. I'd have been like, if the judge say that to me, that's like, ding. Yeah, I want to do that, you know.
So let me ask you this. What would be your advice for somebody that is struggling with addiction and they want to get help?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, first of all, don't wait until you're like sure, you know, or committed. If you're even thinking about it, start looking at your options, you know, start investigating, go out. I mean, let's start with peer support groups. I mean, there are 12 steps. 12 steps, of course, is Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and all the anonymouses. A lot of people like that, but there's other groups, Life Ring, as I mentioned, and She Recovers, Women for Sobriety, Smart Recovery. So there's a lot of choice today, and you can find all this online. Like when I got sober in 93, 94, when I was looking for the other options, I had to go to the library because there was no Google. Okay, there was no Google.
Right.
But today, even if they don't have meetings in your local area, they all have face-to-face meetings, but they're not everywhere. Whereas AA is everywhere, right?
Correct.
But they have online meetings, so you can also participate online. But then the other thing is that if you can find a doctor or a therapist that has substance use disorder expertise, and there are more. There's not enough, but there's more. It can help to get an evaluation, sort of where are you on that mild, moderate, or severe spectrum, and then what are your treatment options. But part of it's going to depend on, are you insured? But not just that. Even can you actually go inpatient? I mean, or are you a single mother who doesn't have anywhere to put her kids and you need other options? Like today there are evening programs, like intensive outpatient programs, or maybe you just work with a therapist who has, addiction expertise or whatever it might be. You have to think about, what are my financial, including insurance abilities, but also what are my life circumstances and what realistically can I do? But more treatment is better. But on the other hand, many people do succeed even just by heavily doing peer support, so it can be really, there's a path forward. But also think about why did I end up in this place? What was sort of giving me the compulsion, propelling me to use at this rate? You need to think about that and address that if you're going to have your best chance of success.
Nice. Okay. Good information. I like it. So how can people get your book?
So my book is available on Amazon and all the usual places, and your bookstore has it or can get it. And then I mentioned my website, which has my opinion pieces. Oh, also people can message me through my website, junkietojudge.com, and I answer all messages. And I'm also on Twitter, and I will say I do not argue with people on Twitter. Okay, I don't have that kind of emotional energy, okay, or time. But I do provide information. I provide new studies that come out, articles about recovery or substance use, my thoughts, and I'm at MaryBethO_.
Nice. I love it. So make sure you check her out. Junkie to Judge, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, junkietojudge.com for all the information, all the resources, and to get the book. Make sure you check out that book. I'm sure it's a great read. I'm gonna have to pick that book up because I definitely want to check it out. Definitely.
I need a new book to read, so that's going to be my next book I read.
It sounds like it's going to be a tearjerker, though. I cry easily, so
yeah, I do too.
I'm going to have to take my time reading that one.
Take the break.
You are a crybaby.
Space. I am. So I admit it. I just said that. Ain't nothing wrong with it. But Mary Beth, thank you so much for coming to the couch. Yeah. Please don't go nowhere. Make sure you check her out at junkietojudge.com for more information on the book and other programs. Do you have like websites for the other the programs that you're board of that you're on the board for?
Yeah, so Life Ring Secular Recovery is lifering.org, and She Recovers is sherecovers.org.
Nice. Excellent. Man, we can go on and on about your background, man. It's just wow.
You are such a blessing. I am so honored to meet you. I definitely would love to pick some of your energy again. It's very inspiring for one, and I'm going to use this being a woman. And to go from that, I dealt with physical abuse and sexual abuse as a child. I didn't get any addictions, but it did make me very aggressive and very angry. And, to overcome that and be the person I am now, when I look back at her, I used to be very mad at her, but I'm so honored by her. When you said that about yourself, when you were doing your memoir and you were just like, I realized the good things that you did and how you tried to save your brothers and sisters. Like, I appreciate you. I really, really do. I'm so honored to sharing your story, to, hear this. It's very important. I wasn't feeling well, and I was going to tell him, I'm not feeling well. I'm so glad I am here today.
Well, thank you. That's lovely. Thank you very much.
Nice, nice. All right, let's get into the regular scheduled program. As always, we like to do a recap on what happened to us this weekend. My weekend was pretty cool, short, sweet. Basically, what we do Friday, I forgot. Thursday, I end up going down to Crackpots Comedy Club doing some time, and that's always good being in my happy place. So that was definitely fun. Made talk some stuff, and it's always funny when because like, when they introduced me, like, oh, we got a special guest, headliner that, travels the country, blah, blah, blah. And some people, like, you hear them, they be like, wait, what? Like, so, but I had to check this one lady because she was just loud for no reason. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? So, and it's funny because, like, I never pick on anybody. I have too much material to even, focus on one person or whatever. But I had to do it. It was short and sweet. And then she said something and I went somewhere else with it and it had everybody laughing. I was like, you kind of set yourself up for that one. Like,
And you got to laugh out of it. So,
like, just enjoy the show. It is okay. Like, but Friday, hung out with my girl, and that's always good. I checked out a spot. One of the teachers that I spoke to last week. We was talking about she was a culinary teacher, so we was talking about food, of course. And I was like, homemade hamburgers is my favorite or whatever. And she had told me a place to go called The Rail. The service wasn't great. I don't know if it was just the time of day or what, but the food, it was definitely on point. The burger was delicious. The food was great. So it outweighed the bad service we got. Never once did the waitress ask us, how's your food? Is it good? Thanks for coming. Like, I'm like,
I don't think that's taught anymore.
But like, you trying to go in my pocket. Like, I mean, like, your service depends on your tip. Like, you gotta do your, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I ain't telling you to kiss my butt while I'm there, but like, come on now.
Customer service, it's just like, I think it's worse than chivalry, like, it's crazy, but that's another story.
Yeah, it definitely is another story. But so that was cool. So we hung out and then we went bowling Friday instead of going Saturday. We usually go Saturdays, but we switched it to Friday, which is not as packed because, like, me and bowling, I like bowling. I'm not in no leagues, but I hate people who don't have bowling etiquette. So it's always irritating when, you got two people on the side of you and they just not paying attention. They just trying to go up while you going up and roll the ball and trying to distract you. And it's like, I mean, like, it's no money on the table or anything like that, but I enjoy it. So I want to, have a good time doing it. So we did. They put us on the other side. We asked to be on the other side. The lights was on. We ain't had to hear the music because the music sucks. I bring my own speaker, so we jamming out, and we got in about 8 games. She finally beat me one time. It was my worst bowling game ever. The whole day was just awful, but she got her dub. I give it to her, and so that was funny. Then Saturday, my favorite, my favorite. I always tell people, you gotta understand. People have favorite people. This guy is my favorite white person of all time. Like, this is my guy. So I got to hang out with him, Mike. We went to dinner, me, him, and my girl, and I got to talk to him and catch up with him because he been in New Jersey for a minute, and I miss him. So it was good to see him and talk to him and everything like that. And he gave me some good news saying he gonna be back more. And I'm like, oh, good. I get one of my favorite people back. So that was cool. And then Saturday night, picked up Lil Mama. And then we went to church yesterday and then went to Bob Evans. And it was a good weekend, real good weekend.
Blessings.
Yep. How was your weekend, BBC?
I want to hear Miss O'Connor's weekend.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. Well, we went and saw Dune 2, which, by the way, 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's tough to sit through for when you get a little older, that bathroom break. I actually looked on the internet, what's a good place to take a bathroom break? And so I was preparing some PowerPoints because I'm going to be speaking in Indiana in May.
Nice.
And also we're doing our May 2020 makeup trip. We were supposed to go to Mexico City and Guanajuato in May of 2020, and we are finally going soon. And not only that, but it's the first trip in a year and a half that wasn't related to one of my speaking engagements. It's like pure vacation, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
Okay.
So how was your weekend, Miss BBC?
My weekend was very interesting. I did a lot of meditating actually, Friday and well, Thursday and Friday. And Carlos Jones, which is one of the biggest reggae artists here in Cleveland, actually invited me out to Brothers Lounge to come out. And I was like, I was gonna go, but I was like, oh, I got so much to do, rehearsal, everything like that. And I end up getting off and coming home and taking care of some stuff. And I'm like, I feel like I can't ever go out if I don't do my chores. Like, it's just like, that thing. So I knew I had to do laundry. And I'm like, but then he called me again and he had sent me a text like, okay, let me know if you're coming out. I'm gonna set up a mic for you. I'm like, oh, I'm coming out, but you don't have to set up a mic for me. It's okay. I end up going to see the Queen Mother and, just getting some blessings from her, wanted some, elder energy. And excuse me, I get to Brothers Lounge, and when I get there, everybody goes crazy. And I'm just like, okay, everybody calm down. I'm just trying to be in a, it's super packed. It's so many people. I just, dip off in a corner with one of the ladies that work with the band, Felicia, which is a beautiful, beautiful spirit. And as soon as she saw me, she was like, no, you're going up on stage. So they're running around and she grabs like one of the managers and they go crazy and they're trying to look at the song list because me and him have 2 songs together. And everybody's like, you're going on stage, you're going on stage. And I'm like, everybody be quiet, everybody calm down. And as soon as Carlos sees me, he brings me up on stage and it's just like this massive pour over the crowd because, I haven't really been taking the stage a lot. I just been, preparing for the Reggae Fest and I don't even know what happened. I opened my mouth and all this passion and roar come out. People are crying and everything. And it's so emotional, but it was such a blessing. And it was really, really great. And then Sunday, I wanted to work Sunday because I knew that it was going to be a lot of people like going to church and everything like that. But it was very boring. Nobody was really out. The churches were packed, but it was like not a lot of people outside on Sunday like I thought it was going to be. So I was very disappointed because I just really wanted to be around people. And, even though I don't really celebrate what they call Easter, I do love the honor that people give the uprising of resurrection. So that was my weekend.
Nice, nice. I like it. That's what's up. It's always good to feel welcome when you go to a spot and they want you to get on stage and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
cool. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. All right. So as always, we got to do our childhood memories, y'all. We like for our couchers to get into our past, even though you probably know everything about me these last 3 years. We always like to do a childhood memory, whether funny or crazy. My childhood memory this week is going to be about, I got one. It was about a Resurrection Sunday. We used to go to a church called Faith Fellowship. And my brother, he used to rap and I used to sing. And I remember we got all dressed up in some like it was almost like Cross Colors clothes, but it wasn't. But we was both matching and we sung in front of the whole church. Well, I sung and he rapped. And like just the outpour of support and everything and how it touched a lot of people when we performed. It just made me think of that because we did a lot of activities, especially on Resurrection Sunday, and for us to go up there and it's funny when I look back at different things on how I was really never nervous to get on stage. I was always like anxious and excited to get on stage. I've really never had like a stage fright per se, so like it was like ingrained in me from a young age. So
Yeah.
I think I was probably like maybe 11, and so that made him like 16 at the time, and it was really, really fun. So that's gonna be my childhood memory this week. All right, Miss BBC, you want to go first, or you want to let Mary Beth go first?
Miss McConnell could go first.
Well, I happened to come across a video thing where kids were chasing cats, and it reminded me of when I was little, when I was about 4 or 5, we had a cat in our house, and I was chasing the cat, and the cat ran into the kitchen, and I chased it, and it went behind the stove, like behind the stove. So I stuck my head behind the stove and like my arm out to try to catch the cat. Well, the cat went out the other side, okay, and then I couldn't get my head back out, like I couldn't get my head back out. And so I was trapped, and I'm screaming for my mother, but there's the sound's not going anywhere because I'm like right up against the wall, and she's upstairs. And so I was like sitting there crying to myself, which seemed like forever, but was probably maybe 15 minutes.
Right.
And my mother's like, how did you do this? Like, how did you do this? And it also does tie with what one of the things she would say sometimes, which is sort of funny and sort of not, but how can somebody so smart be so stupid? I'm sure I heard that, but yes, the cat was smarter than me when I was 4 years old.
The cat knew what he was doing. He knew that he could fit through there. Like, I got something for you.
Yeah, them damn cats is evil.
That's so sneaky. That's funny. I've gotten stuck so many times chasing animals. That's another story. But my childhood memory. Oh, okay. So Easter Sunday, and I was in a choir. Well, this specific day, we needed ushers, like because some of the elder ushers were being honored or something like that. So my brother-in-law is in charge of the choir, and they're singing they're singing a hymn, and for some reason in my mind I just wasn't paying attention, and so they're singing oh thank you Jesus, oh, and then my brother points to me, and as soon as he points to me, I just break out, and I just go, I just wanna, and I'm singing the wrong song. It was so much passion and so much, and everybody just stopped and then and they just went into my song, and it was so crazy. I was so embarrassed. But I don't know why that song was just stuck in my heart or my mind or whatever. But why would you point to me? I'm not even doing choir. So terrible. It was so embarrassing. They laughed about that.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Listen, it must have moved everybody because they switched songs real quick.
Yeah. Thank you. I was grateful. They stopped for a long time, though. It was a pause, like.
But they backed you up in the end. They backed you up in the end.
That's what counts. All right, let's get to one of my favorite subjects on the couch is flowers while they're still here. We like to give people flowers while they're still here instead of being conditioned like so many of us are to give people flowers while they're dead and gone. So we like to give people flowers while they're still here so they can actually smell those roses. Miss BBC, go ahead and start us off. Who you want to give flowers to today?
I want to give flowers to Judge O'Connor.
Oh,
hey,
your flowers. Thank you. For everything that you've been through, everything that you overcome, and everything that you help people go through and heal through and find what they need to become a better them. I really am so honored, and I thank you. So those flowers are for you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was lovely.
Nice. So you are the first person that she gave single flowers to. She usually gives like a group of flowers to people, like a group of people. And usually I give flowers to our guests, but she gave flowers. So that's big flowers right there. I gotta say that, big flowers. But you deserve them. Definitely deserve them. Definitely. So my flowers this week are going to go to my dude Mike, man. I got to give him his flowers because I met him from playing softball, and he became family. Just the interaction that we always had together. I remember the first time he met me. I don't even remember. Like it's funny because he tells this story a lot. How he met me. I really didn't even know who he was. But we was playing in a softball tournament that I usually play in every year. and it's like a super draft where so like everybody, you know, pays their money and they get split up into teams. And me being me, I'm always talking junk, always. It never fails because that's how I have fun, you know. And I seen him make a play. I was like, man, look at this old dude out here. He on it. Y'all, hey, don't hit to the old man, you know, messing with him. And he said that sparked it from there. And he was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, I knew I liked you. And we became cool. We ended up being on the same team in a couple of different places when we play league. And that dude is just one of a kind. Like this dude will definitely give you the shirt off his back. Always cool, always got good advice. I used to talk to him before I even went through my second divorce on some of the problems that was going on and just pick his brain and stuff like that. But for him to be so genuine every single time we spoke, it just shows what kind of person he is. And it definitely made me sad when he was moving back to Jersey. He would have been in my second wedding if I'd have had more people in it, but that dude really looked out for me, especially on my bachelor party. I was trying to catch up with one of my dudes and drunk too much too quick, but he made sure I was good, make sure I got back to the room, made sure I was straight, and just an overall good dude. So Mike Reed, you getting your flowers today, fam. Love you, dog.
Yes, Mike.
Definitely deserve his flowers. All right, Mary Beth, who you want to give flowers to today?
Well, I will say, maybe this may be too obvious, but I'm going to say my husband, Doc. And part
Nice.
of it is that we are coming up on our 40th. And I know it makes me sound old, but we are coming up on our 40th anniversary in a couple weeks. But it's not just that. When I say he was ready to throw me out, you know, when I was 32, we had been together like 9 years at that point. He was really ready to throw me out. Like for me, it was like, well, maybe will you not throw me out if I go to rehab? Like that was part of it.
Yeah.
And in rehab, they usually have these like family sessions where, you know, the family comes, and he came up 2 or 3 times with a therapist and me, and he was like adamant with her. I don't think I think it's too late. I think too much, you know, I'm too angry. I'm too frustrated. Too much water under the bridge. But when I got out of rehab, he did, you know, let me I moved back home with him where I had been living, and he wasn't making any promises. He wasn't making any promises, but he did wait and see, and he did start going to couples counseling with me, and he did, you know, was watching. Is she actually going to do it? You know, is she going to stick to it? Is she going to move forward? And he was also not expecting overnight miracles, right? Like, you know, part of the reason I could work part-time for the first 6 months was because, you know, I lived with him, and he allowed that he agreed it was a reasonable first step, you know, instead of trying to push me too hard, too fast. And so we did make it through. And so we have a very lovely life now. We are very close, and we have, and I will say one more thing. I saw it on my Facebook recently. So a funny story about Doc. When COVID hit, we were updating our wills, and so like we started doing it before COVID hit. But when COVID hit, we had to be on the phone with the lawyer to go over our questions and stuff. And so this will tell you a lot about it. So I was asking about one of the clauses in the will, and the lawyer, who's also my friend, I worked at a law firm with him, and he goes, Mary Beth and Doc, he goes, I know this doesn't apply to you guys. It's in case of divorce. And remember, this is in the beginning of the lockdown, right? And so and my husband goes, I don't know, Jeff. It could depend on how long this lockdown
Nice.
Like so many people.
I don't know. We've been together, you know, 6 years, but this lockdown could be the breaker point. So it was pretty funny. But anyway.
That was funny.
Nice. Nice. So kudos to him. It sounds like he definitely deserves those flowers. Sticking in and sticking with it, and letting you heal and letting you recover, and still staying by your side through it all. So definitely sounds like he deserves his flowers. Definitely. All right. So I think that will be a good time to take our one and only sponsor break. Please don't go nowhere. We got to pay some bills. We got more Mary Beth O'Connor, more Just Therapy. Y'all know who I am, and I'm taking you to break, baby.
Primal Screen in Kent, Ohio. For all your screen printing and embroidery needs. Quality work, on time, fair prices. For more information, call 330-689-9999. 330-677-1766. Again, 330-677-1766. Or check us out online, primalscreenprinting.com. If you mention the podcast, you get 5% off. Peace.
Custom Design Aquariums, where we bring your aquatic dreams to life. With your help, using your imagination, together, we will turn your home or office into a peaceful getaway. For a free consultation, call 330-475-5181 or contact us by email at customdesignaqa@gmail.com. Once again, that is customdesignaqa@gmail.com. Mention this podcast and get 5% off.
Primal Screen in Kent, Ohio. For all your screen printing and embroidery needs. Quality work, on time, fair prices. For more information, call 330-677-1766. Again, 330-677-1766. Or check us out online, primalscreenprinting.com. If you mention the podcast, you get 5% off. Peace.
Oh, y'all know what it is. Every week I talk about it. I know there's no way you fed up with it. There's no way, because I got the best place for you. Twisted Tomato Pizzeria. They got 3 locations and 1 on the way. First location is in Cuyahoga Falls at 1909 Bailey Road, Cuyahoga Falls. Their phone number is 330-928-2222. And then the second location is in downtown Akron, across the street from Rubber Duck Stadium. That's 325 South Main Street, Akron, Ohio. Their phone number is 330-849-5707. And the third but newest location is in Stowe, Ohio. Their address is 3031 Graham Road, Stowe. Their phone number is 330-673-9410. Listen, I know I talk about it every week, but you got to understand it's great pizza. And the best thing about the downtown location has to be the beer wall. Listen, they got 36 glorious taps of beer, wine, ale, IPAs, whatever you can think of is on this wall. I like to call it the Dave and Buster's of beer, because you go in there, you put money on the card, you walk up to the tap and put the card next to the tap and pour as much as your heart desires. But please drink responsibly. Another thing I love so much about Twisted Tomato Pizzeria is because they cater to your taste buds. And everybody always asks, what do you mean by cater to your taste buds? Exactly what I said. Any specialty pizza, any order you want, they make it just for you. And I am a cheeseless type of person, so I always say no cheese, extra sauce, whatever toppings I want, and it's always delicious. I mean, that first bite, every single time I have Twisted Tomato Pizza, it make me go, bitch. Like, it's just that good. You gotta check them out. They're also the official sponsor of Just Their PD podcast. So when you order something, mention you are a coucher and you listen to Just Their PD podcast, and you get a 10% discount. Listen, we always love a discount on great food. You can't beat it. So make sure you check it out. Twisted Tomato Pizzeria. If it's pizza, it's possible. Check them out. Twisted Tomato Pizzeria. Yes. All right. And you already know a few shameless plugs, as we do every week. And I really only got one for you this week. This week, the only one we got is coming up real fast, Reggae Fest Cleveland. Make sure you check out all the good festivities. It's going to be May 25th, which is a Saturday, and May 26th, which is a Sunday. There are a slew of great reggae artists will be in the building. Go to reggaefestcleveland.com for more information, especially on tickets. Make sure you check it out, especially on Saturday. Our very own Miss BBC will start the festivities off at 12 o'clock with a slew of great artists following. And then on Sunday, a friend of the couch, and he was a guest on the couch, Milton Blake, is on that lineup. So make sure you check out Reggae Fest Cleveland. For more information, go to reggaefestcleveland.com. It is coming up on your ass, so make sure you go and check out the vibes. Reggae Fest Cleveland. Make sure you check it out.
Yes.
All right. And we are back. I got rid of the soundboard because it was just too much. I ain't really feel like doing it no more. So, all right, let's get back right into it. Listen, so this story right here, we got to talk about. I want to know what y'all thoughts on this. So, when I first seen it, it was like the end of last year, and that's what made me see it and hold it. And I've been holding it for a while, but we want to talk about it today. So, the original headline I seen was an 11-year-old shoots two teens over fight about a bag of chips. And I'm like, wait, that sounds like too much. So I started digging in, doing research, right? And trying to find the article. So I found the article, and it reads as this: an 11-year-old accused of shooting two teens at a football practice is arrested on attempted murder charge. Now, the thing is, they have video for this. Of course, they stop it before the actual shooting. But according to everybody that was there, these two 13-year-old teens, of course, this was at like a Pop Warner football practice or whatever. And after the practice, they give out snacks at, little football games and cheerleading things and basketball and things like that for the youth. Usually a parent has to bring snacks. I guess they got into it and they was picking on them. And then they were like pushing them and everything. And he proceeds to run away and they chase him. So that. Here's the story. An 11-year-old youth football player has been arrested on suspicion of shooting and wounding two fellow players at practice in Florida. The child shot two 13-year-olds at a recreation complex just outside Orlando after a fight between them during a Pop Warner football practice, right? One teenager was treated at the hospital and released, and the other is still being treated. And remember, this was at the end of the year last year. One had a wound to an arm, and the other had a wound to the torso. The 11-year-old took a gun from his mother's car where the weapon was in an unlocked box. The child fired a shot that hit both teens. Police were called to the complex. An 11-year-old was booked in the Juvenile Assessment Center on preliminary charge of second-degree attempted murder. Authorities are looking into whether adults will be charged. Video shows the teens were running when the gun was fired. The gun was allegedly owned by the mom. Investigators don't know what led to the fight between the youths, he said. The 11-year-old had no previous criminal history. So, the other article I read had all the other information that I gave you. And you can see in the video where these two teens are chasing an 11-year-old back to the car because they're trying to fight him, right? And he proceeds to go into the passenger side, knew exactly where the gun was, grabbed the gun, and literally shot at these two teens. You can see in the video, the mother is super distraught that he grabbed the gun and shot these kids and literally never ran from the scene at all for him to, make sure he took responsibility and all that, and then for them to figure it out. So my question to you is two questions. Is it the mom's fault that she had her gun? Knowingly, she probably had her carry concealed license. And of course, was a single mother and had her gun. So is it wrong because he knew exactly where she kept the gun in the car and it was able to access it? Or is it the mom's fault that she had the loaded gun in the first place?
Judge O'Connor?
Well, I mean, I mean, I don't know Florida law, and I'm not a criminal law, but most states have you have to have your weapon locked, right, in a lockbox, in part because of kids. And there was a recent case, I forget what state it was in, where the parents were found to be, I forget the exact charge, but they were found criminally liable because their son, both parents, because the son shot other kids. But in that case, and again, I'm not hyper following him, my understanding is that there was more than just, it wasn't locked. There was, he had been asking for help, for mental health help, and they kept telling him no. And, he had been trying to get them to pay attention to him, and they were saying no, as well as that he had access to the weapon. So my understanding is that generally it's hard, to hold parents liable. I mean, there's probably some criminal charge for having a weapon not in a locked box, but as far as an accessory to the shooting, right? So there's the charge of you're required to lock it, you didn't lock it, that's a charge. But as far as the possibility of an additional charge in regard to the actual shooting itself, that somehow she's responsible for the boys getting shot, my guess is that it takes more than just the gun being in an unlocked box.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we just actually talked about, that was the Crumleys. We just talked about that story where they were found liable because he clearly was asking for help for mental issues. They actually bought him the gun. The school called the parents. That's right. And the wife was like, "Oh, well, I'm riding my horse, so I can't come right now." And it was a whole bunch of neglect, and they both were found guilty, rightfully so, because he was actually asking for help, and they just kept ignoring it. So yes, but with the lockbox thing, when you got your CCW and you have it with you in your car, there's nothing. Well, I mean, the glove compartment, yes, but 9 times out of 10. With the carry conceal, you're supposed to have it on your person. And that's the thing. Like, it was in the car instead of on her person. And 9 times out of 10, when you're at a youth engagement like that, because if you actually go into a school, it says no firearms in the building. And if this was football, so this was outside. I don't know if they still had that rule or whatnot. What's your thoughts on it, Miss BBC?
I think that it's more, I mean, I always go into detail of the story. These boys had to, and I'm just using this, they had to be bullying this boy for a while,
That's what it was saying.
What usually happens. I don't think that because we don't know if she had the box locked and then did the boy premeditate this? Like, did he get his mom's key and unlock the box to make sure? Like, so there's no telling where that started. He's 11. He's probably being bullied all the time, the way that the read goes. And when I saw it at the end of the year, this had to, when I'm just not trying to justify it because he shouldn't have shot them. Correct. But I think people and teachers and coaches, they try to, oh yeah, this is healthy, boys, play being boys. But bullying has become so crazy lately, and it's more than just, and then they're bullying and sexually harassing and doing everything to the level of bullying. We don't know how long this boy has been going through this. Has he said something to anybody, and no one has really, be a boy, how you guys are treated as men, beef up, kind of thing. And is he dealing with, psychological issues, from that? How long has he been bullied, what's going on at home? I also don't think that the parents should be charged, because regardless of the fact, like you said, Florida is a carry and conceal state. And and when I was in Florida, I know it's a lot of places, even outside, where that has no weapons allowed on the field and, in certain places. So, by her having it in a box, evidently it was a lock box, you don't know the status. And it's like, it's so quick for people to always want to blame the parents. You can do everything exactly right, and still kids, they moving like this. And today they're smarter than ever, like, when it comes to certain things. So it's like, get this kid some help, get to the bottom of the story, definitely get him some mental help, and get these boys some help, because why are they being bullies to someone that is younger than them? And why do they feel like they have to, I think, I'm always big on correction, and I've been through a lot of centers, so I know, and I see a lot of people try, they don't pay attention to these kids. The only thing they think about is winning, 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 winning. So I think that it was very much overlooked. It probably was building up to something. He probably even said, y'all touch me at one more time and I'm gonna kill y'all. It probably was out there so many times, and everybody overlooked it. So if the mother get blamed, I think every parent should get, or coach or whatever, that did not help him, because they're chasing him right out in public in front of everybody. No one saying, hey, stop that, leave him alone, nothing, so yeah, I don't agree that the mother get blamed for it, but something definitely should happen.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and it's an unfortunate event, because these two kids are wounded. Thank God they wasn't killed.
Yes, thank God.
But again, like when you see the video, these two kids are literally chasing, and they're of course bigger than him. You can see it in the video, but they're chasing him to the car to actually like probably rough him up some more. And he goes and then they start running away because he pulled a gun on them,
Yeah.
and it's almost like,
it's terrible
when we say
that happened, but
right.
yeah.
And when we say, like, as this generation, we'd be like, oh, well, use your fist or whatever. It's hard to beat up two people that's older than you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and really be able to hold your own against two people that are older and bigger than you.
Everybody's
so it's almost like, right. And everybody's not a fighter, but it's almost like, because, we always say, the kids want to pick up a gun first instead of throwing them hands. But in this case, it's almost like, what was he, like, I wish it was like a bat in the car or a stick in the car instead of a gun, because then maybe he would have been able to, like hold him off that way, where the boys would have gotten in trouble instead of him actually getting in trouble for, using a gun. So.
Right. Or where was the coach? It's at least, my nephews are on football. It's at least 7 coaches, it's enough for people to see, but also parents are out there too. You see these things going on,
snatch one of them little kids up. Like, what you doing? Leave them alone. Like, seriously.
Telling us, hey, stop that. Come here. What's going on? Anytime I see anything with kids or whatever, kids be like, shut up, but I don't care, because you never know. All it takes is one push, one hit, somebody hitting the ground, somebody grabbing a gun. And if you don't say anything, and these kids they don't have no fear, they have no one chastising them,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like that, you see that thing in Britain where the white guy was bullying the new guy from Africa and made him kiss his shoe and was punching him in the face and everything. I'm gonna send you the video.
I didn't see that. Mm-hmm.
It was he made the black boy, the African boy, get down and kiss his shoe, and muddy boot. It's all over. And one of the boxers actually reached out to the boy and gave him some boxing gloves and told him, like, set him up for training and everything like that. And he really got there. And it's just like, it's becoming terrible. This bullying and this is why some of these kids are losing. And you don't know anybody's mental status. You don't know their traumas. You don't know what they're going through. So it's
absolutely.
Mary
Beth, any last thoughts on that one?
Well, the only other thing I'll add is he's 11, right? His decision-making process is emotional regulation, and he's probably full of adrenaline because he's racing away from these kids, and that makes it even harder to think. So it is, you're right, it's bad for all 3 of the boys, and all 3 of the boys need help for different reasons. Whatever was going on with the 11-year-old, now he shot someone, and that's going to be a whole nother layer of, guilt and trauma, and how he's treated in the legal system is going to be an issue as well. But he's 11. He's not 25. You're not capable. You're not always capable of controlling your emotions or making good decisions as well at that age.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So what's our next topic on the docket, Miss BBC? What's going on?
Our next topic is when people are dealing with addiction and they are healing, do they go from one addiction to another? I have, like I said, I've been around many addicts and most of my life, and I've seen a lot of them heal. But what I've noticed is that sometimes they go from one addiction to another, whether it's um, not doing drugs, but smoking cigarettes or eating or even business. I had an uncle, he was on drugs, he went to jail and he started reading in jail. Well, then he developed a reading addiction. Like he has to read books. Like he'll read like 300 books a year. Like he just read constantly. He's always sharing out books with me. I have a childhood friend's mother. She was on addiction, but now she just have all these businesses. And I mean, she's doing really well. She has all these houses, but she dives into it. And I was wondering, I was like, and I just was noticing, eating habits. I have different people that I've seen. And I said, is it that people go from one addiction to another? What are your thoughts?
So this is why it's important to deal with the underlying issue. Some people really view a substance use disorder more as a symptom. It's not the core issue, right? And so if you don't address what else is going on, then you're much more likely to do some other type of behavior that's compulsive, that's going to sort of meet that same emotional need. I mean, what need does an addiction solve? It helps you suppress your emotions. It helps you feel numb. It helps you not feel inclined to deal with things. It sort of puts you in a bubble. And so if you don't deal with whatever trauma or your mental health or whatever else is going on, you're much more likely to turn to something else. And I will say, I'm glad you mentioned the overwork, because for me, that was the challenge. I tend to be really I tend to overwork. I put a lot on my plate. When I work long hours. When I worked at the big law firm, and that's a place of long hours, I was like in the top 5% in hours my first year, and part of that for me was it was a trauma response. Right. And perfectionism and workaholism often are trauma responses. For me, it was that I didn't trust the world to like be fair or work out in my favor. I always worried that one little mistake and I was going to lose everything, and it was always going to blow up. So for me, part of that commitment to work and working those kind of hours was to try to make sure I did everything perfectly. And I thought of everything, and I was the best of the group. And I was, because I needed to be best, because I wanted to be safe. And for me, that's what it took to be safe. And so it can be other issues underneath that are pushing people to do these other behaviors if they aren't addressed.
Mm-hmm. See, I figured that, because I was like, dang, and I noticed that. And when he told me like, okay, what's your topic? And I was like, wow, it would be such a great topic to have, because when you're seeing that, and in my mind, I'm thinking it's another addiction. And I actually had an eating addiction at one time to suppress trauma. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that it was an eating addiction until I realized it. And so writing was my relief from that. And I have like so many notebooks where I just would write songs and poems and stuff like that I never even would do anything with. It just like became my outlet of eating, which a lot of people, even when you see people that smoke cigarettes as well, they stop smoking cigarettes and they wonder why they gain weight, because then they develop an eating addiction to always have something in their mouth at the time that they will have a cigarette.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask this: is a reading addiction a bad thing, though? That's what I want to know. Like, no, would that really be a bad thing?
No, I wasn't saying it was a bad thing, but I just when I just noticed, like, after he was incarcerated for so long, he never used again. But he would always just write and tell me like, oh, I read this book. You should read this book. You should read this book. But then it became like that was his, go-to. Like, and now he still till this day, he reads a lot, but that's what he does. And I just figured that was his addiction away from his addiction, his dive into to keep him, his sobriety, I guess.
Well, to that, I'll say, so the definition of addiction is that you continue to do the behavior despite significant negative consequences.
Okay.
So if he's reading, let's say he's reading 2 hours a day, but he's got time, and he's not watching TV 2 hours a day, or he's not on social media 2 hours, but he's reading 2 hours a day, then, and it's a positive or a neutral in his life, I wouldn't count it as an addiction. But if he's reading 5 or 6 hours a day, so he doesn't spend time with friends or family, or he's missing work, or he's not, going to the doctor, or he's not doing other things, that he's not exercising because he's reading 6 hours a day, then you might put it into this category of some kind of an addiction. It's about the negative consequences.
Yeah, well, he doesn't social media. He doesn't have a phone. I mean, he has a flip phone, but like he doesn't watch TV. He doesn't even have a TV in his house. Like he literally reads all day. I mean, from as much as I know, he reads a lot. So yes, I would feel that way towards that situation. But he's very intelligent, and he, like, anything you ask him about or anything you need to fix or anything like that, he does have the answer. And so I would say that. And he does spend time with his family or whatever, but he doesn't work. He gets disability, but yeah, he definitely, before bed, in middle of the day, early in the morning, like he reads a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you gave the actual breakdown of addiction when it doesn't have negative effects on your life. I like that. Yeah, definitely. All right. So this week, it ain't even gonna be, I don't even know if I should even put the banner up, probably so, just because I like saying it. This week in crazy, funny, fucked up news, yeah, is April Fool's dead, is what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it over? Is it overrated? The internet is over April Fool's Day. Here's what people had to say on social media. All right. It's April 1st, which means it's April Fool's Day, but there haven't been many jokes online so far this year, and it may stay that way. Sure, everyone loves a good laugh, but users on Twitter, I can't call it X, took to the platform to express why they are glad April Fool's Day is not as big as it once was. I also do want to point out a couple businesses participated today. Dunkin' changed their name to Just Donuts, and they said, we are still serving coffee, but don't ask any other questions. Just donuts, just to have a joke with it. A couple other people, they did some stuff too, where they had some fake Omaha steak spray, and then somebody else did the sour cream and onion soda, where they actually made some pop cans and sold them. Just, I think, probably as novelty items though. But a lot of people are saying April Fool's Day is dead. So I'm gonna read some of the posts that they said. The slow death of April Fool's Day has been great to witness. Somebody else said April Fool's Day is canceled this year because no amount of prank can match the unbelievable stupidity of the world right now. Another person said April Fool's Day is canceled today because there's no bigger joke than living in this generation and economy. And then somebody else said, it feels like society has moved beyond the need for April Fools. And then somebody commented, I think April Fools has kind of lost its vibe. What used to be a day for harmless jokes now feels a bit out of touch with the internet already a wild ride of truth and lies. Adding pranks to the mix doesn't have the same charm. It's like, do we really need a special day to make jokes, is what they said. Another comment says, feels like society has moved beyond the need for April Fools. And then, that was pretty much it. So they was talking about just, April Fools, and the internet is over April Fools. So what say you? I know this is not a regular, crazy, funny, fucked up news story, but what says you, since it is April Fool's Day? I was looking at some of my old posts in my memories on Facebook, and I had a post where it said, I'm done, I'm just over it, it's been fun, but I'm out, right? By Facebook. And I was reading the comments, because some of the comments are still there, and one of my dudes was like, It's probably an April Fool's joke. He probably even forgot about the post by now. And it's funny because like an hour or two later, I responded like, "Oh, I actually did forget about the post, but don't steal my joy, April Fool's or whatever." I haven't really seen a lot of April Fool's jokes. I know I didn't do any April Fool's stuff. I seen somebody else post saying his big April Fool's prank was him telling his family his wife was expecting, and then he said 9 months later twins came out, and he was like, "Be careful with these April Fool's jokes." So what do y'all think? Do y'all think April Fool's jokes are dying or what?
I totally think I haven't seen people do April Fools in years. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, but I mean, and in my culture, I don't have time for that. I think it's like one person said, as far as it's so much going on in the world and in social media with truth and lies, and it's so many horrible pranks. Some of the pranks that go on Facebook, especially between couples, I think it's so disrespectful. But even before the pandemic, I don't even remember people doing April Fool jokes or pranks, and I'm okay with that, really, because it is a lot going on in the world.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What say you, Mary Beth?
I do wonder if any of this is because we're not together physically as much as we used to be, right? Because a lot of the April Fool jokes that I can remember were things that were done at work, that were lighthearted, different engagements, and so it's different on the internet. But you're right. I don't think I saw anything this year that was April Fools on the internet. I've never been a particular prankster myself, but sometimes people would get me because I can be very literal. I can take things very literally, and so I can be got. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, Miss BBC, you made a good point. It's almost like the pandemic shut it down per se. You really haven't seen it, until like before that. Like after that, no one was really doing April Fool's jokes. I haven't really seen any, and I really never did like big pranks or anything like that. It was always, saying something like, "Oh, I quit," or something, something silly, but it was never really anything elaborate. And I never once was like, "Oh, I'm quitting comedy," like, and it was on April 1st, and I never even said that. So it was almost like, I make jokes for a living, so April Fools just got, it got old really fast, because like I do jokes for a living, so it was like, why do I need April Fools anymore? But I don't remember like some of the. I mean, some people would always, do it, and during school or something like that, and some of them would be funny, but I've never seen. I'm glad I've never seen any go too far, but I think April Fools. I think they own to something this year. Talking about the internet is over April Fools, and it's pretty much dying, because you see, some businesses participating just to mess around. Like I think the one year IHOP had changed theirs to IHOB for International House of Burgers, and it was on April Fools, so it was funny because they started giving that company crap about it, but it was literally on April Fools, and no one really picked up on it. They literally thought they were changing their name to International House of Burgers. So, but like I said, you had Dunkin' participate today, but they didn't change the sign, so it was just like on their website, I guess, just donuts. So, even though I did get a good laugh out of that one.
My husband ran a college radio station. That was his, profession. And one year, his station and another college radio station, they switched. And
nice.
So nice. I do remember that. I'll have to ask him if they did anything this year, but I do remember that. It was pretty cool. And it was actually logistically complicated. I mean, it sounds simple, but it actually was technologically, it took some effort.
Right, I bet. Because you literally got to go to the other studio and get clearance and make sure they can go in there and all that. So
and you have to make sure you're not violating FCC rules when you announce your station name and all those kind of things, But they switched 1 year, so that was
that's a lot, especially when you got the FCC rules involved. You got to make sure you read the call letters right and all that, and play the right advertisements and everything, just to do all that. That's elaborate. They had to put some thought into that.
Yeah,
I like it. Well, Mary Beth, thank you so much for coming to the couch. It's been a pleasure. Go on and give out your social medias on how people can get in touch with you one more time, please.
So my book, From Junkie to Judge, One Woman's Triumph Over Trauma and Addiction, is on Amazon and all the usual sites, and your bookstore has it or can get it. My website is junkietoJudge.com. There's info there, and you can message me through my website, and I answer all messages. And I'm on Twitter. I also still refuse to say X. And I'm Mary Beth, at Mary Beth _, at Mary Beth O _ sorry, at Mary Beth O _.
Nice. I like it. Come on. So, as y'all know, we always do the close. Little lady.
She was eager earlier. Yeah,
I know. I just told her to be ready. We about to do it, and then she want to go back in there. You ready? All right.
I thought you were talking.
No, I'm talking to you. All right. So, we got to give you your close, something you can ponder on. Until the next time you see us live on Just Therapy V podcast on YouTube and Facebook, or next day on Spotify. So this week, your close, something you can ponder on. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna read a good quote, and Mary Beth, you break it down in your own words and let us know what you feel about that quote and how you will interpret that quote in your own words. All right. All right, here we go. So, it is always the simple that produces the marvelous. It is always the simple that produces the marvelous. What says you?
Well, what that makes me think about is that sometimes as I talked about, when I get all wound up and working and doing all these things, it actually doesn't end up in a better result. And if I can just sort of, take a deep breath and calm down, actually marvelous things will happen.
Nice. I like it. All right. Once again, listen, thank you so much for coming to the couch. Well, listen, it was definitely a great episode. Definitely enjoyed your story. Definitely wish you the best of luck. Keep inspiring people, keep changing people's lives, keep motivating people to, fight their addictions and get over them. And just thank you for being you. I appreciate you today. Definitely.
Well, thank you. And I really enjoyed meeting both of you and having a great discussion. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Miss BBC, you got anything you want to say before we get up out of here?
Yes, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Judge O'Connor, for coming on. And if no one has told you today, I love you, I believe in you, and I want you all to win.
All right. And one more thing, there's one thing you can never get back, is time. And I want to thank you for spending your time on the couch with us tonight. We'll see you next week. God willing, we out. Peace.
Bye-bye.
MICAH Beats activated.
Welcome to Just Therapy, where we talk about life with a comedy twist. With your hosts, comedian Sean Boyd, Antonio Ferguson, and Miss KT. We talk about a whole bunch of shit, from politics to people actually taking shits. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the therapy session. Man, this be dope. Make a motherfucker want to rap. I can't rap, man. Hold on, here we go. I can't rap. I really can't. But come sit down on the couch with us. Man, I can't rap. Come to the couch. Enjoy the show. Let's go.